Hi everyone, I'm Jason, I'm Marwell's resident photographer. I'm here to talk to you today about doing some photography at home. Whether it's picking up a new hobby or whether you're just looking for things to do, thought it might be nice to get an insight into some of the things that I've been doing to keep myself busy. One of those things, and what I'm going to talk to you about today, is portraits. Now in particular, we're going to do pet portraits. Now don't worry, if you don't have any pets at home, you can always use a member of the family. So before we get into photographing our pet today, I thought I'd take a second to just introduce you to one of mine and our model for the day, Ash. So this is Ash. Ash is an 8-year-old Siberian Husky, and he's going to be our model for today. So on to photographing our pet. Now, a lot of people will come straight in and ask, well, what's the best settings? Well, actually, I think I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to say, before you even think about camera settings, there's a couple of things that we need to decide on first. If you don't have a camera, you could do a lot of this with your phones. Now, technology in phones today are just phenomenal. A lot of them will have portrait modes built in. Try it, because within that you'll get a similar sort of effect where it will try and blur the background. Before you even think about camera settings, there's a couple of things that we need to decide on first. One of those being where. Changing your background and having a really nice clean background can make a massive difference to your photograph. Choosing a light or dark background can massively affect your final image. Ideally, when we're doing it, we want to be looking for something nice and clean, something free of clutter, something that's not very distracting to the eye. When I'm thinking about the backgrounds, I'm also checking on what the light's doing, how it's falling, where it's from, the surfaces that it's reflecting off, all those kinds of things, as well as where do I want the light to hit my subject. Do I want it front lit, do I want it from the side, or do I want it from behind? Maybe you want to do some nice little silhouettes. Changing the direction of the light can again have huge differences to your photos. Light plays a really important part of photography. Getting it right can make or break your photo. So to make our life easier, it's beneficial to have whatever you're photographing, whether that's a pet or a person, to have them suitably trained. And yes, that includes people too. So with Ash, for instance, I've already taught him to sit, stay and lay down. So today we're going to do a couple of those things. We'll take him outside and we'll see how he does. Right, onto our camera. Now normally I'll shoot everything in manual, but if you're not confident of what that is, then what I'd say to you is you can set it in your semi-automatic mode, and today we're going to be looking at aperture priority, so AV, or if you're really unsure, then you can set your camera to auto, but only this time, okay? On my photo days that I teach, I don't let anyone go on auto. We try to make sure they come off of it and they understand the cameras. So this is a one-time deal. So first off, we're going to look at our aperture. Now aperture deals with your depth of field. So this is basically what's going to be in focus when we take our photograph. Now, ideally with a portrait, you're going to want your subject in focus and the background to be nicely blurred out, nice and soft focus. Just basically then your subject will pop out of the background and look a lot nicer. Aperture is measured in f-stops, and in its basic form, the lower the f number, the less depth of field you get, which is basically the bit that's in focus. So thinking about the photos that we want to take, we only want our pet in focus. So that tells us that we're going to want a small f number to start with. So that's our aperture sorted out. Next we'll take a look at the ISO. Now if you're shooting in aperture priority, you can leave that in auto if you want and let the camera do the work. If you're shooting in manual, then I suggest we start at 100 depending on the light that's available today or when you're shooting. So for me, it's really bright and sunny outside, so I'm going to set it at 100. Now in an ideal world, 100 would be perfect because it gives us the best quality photo. As the light starts to drop, our ISO increases so that we can basically get the same exposure that we want for the type of photograph that we're using. The next thing I want to check is my shutter speed. Now because I've already set my aperture and my ISO, when I'm outside, I'm literally just going to adjust the shutter speed to find out what gives me the exposure that I want. Obviously I don't want to go in too slow because I don't want a blurry image. If it goes too high, it's not going to matter a great deal. I just want to get that exposure right, and I'll adjust my shutter speed just to compensate for wherever it lands. Okay, so quick recap before we head outside. We've decided what we're going to do, which today is our pet portraits. We've gone outside, we've checked where we want to photograph, so we've looked at our backgrounds, we've looked at how the light's affecting our backgrounds, where we think it might hit our subjects. We've talked about the hows, so how are we going to get our pet to get in these little poses that we want. We've briefly gone over what we're going to do with our camera and the settings, so we've gone through our apertures, our ISOs and our shutter speeds to get the exposure that we want. Beyond that, so you want to get a little bit more creative, you want to start thinking about going into closer aspects, so maybe look at details around the eyes and the nose. The pigments of a dog nose are wonderful if you can get close enough. Those interested in macro photography, great little subject, especially the eyes and the structure. Or if you want to get a little bit more creative, you could set the camera up. So in this particular instance, I had it on a tripod. I set my first photo up in the garden. I got all the dogs out, took photographs of them in various different positions all over the place, and then using software I basically stitched them all together to create one big composite photograph. So I have 5 huskies. In this last image, I think you can count 19, and it's just a little bit of fun. Just gets you to do something a little bit different rather than just a standard photo. Just think about what else you can do, what else you can explore, how else you can use your photography and your time to keep yourself busy. And remember, if you don't have a camera, you can still get out and use your phone to do a lot of these things. A lot of great photos can be taken on phones, so it's always worth trying to get out there and just do something. So hopefully that's all been a little bit of fun. Hopefully it gives you something else to think about, something else to do. Thanks for watching, listening, and if you're doing anything yourself, or if you decide to do any portraits, please put them in the comments. It'd be lovely to see what you're up to.